everyone. My name is Ieva Urbaite, and I'm the friendly publicist. And
I'm Meg Weinkauf with The Faithful Leader, and I'll be talking about leadership in this conversation.
our topic for today is going to be about finding publicity that aligns with your personal company and your personal brand. So Meg, do you want to talk a little bit about how relationships have worked in your business and what you feel like, relationships have to do with being a leader?
Absolutely. So in my business, so I always say this, like everything's about relationships, right? I mean, if we're going to be growing and connecting, like you just got to step out of your comfort zone and start making those relationships. And we're in a time in the digital age where, you go on your digital footprint, that's kind of like your handshake. And so I guess we'll be touching on a little bit of LinkedIn as an example today. So even having a really good LinkedIn profile and having that profile picture that's professional and welcoming, looking at the camera, I mean, that starts out the relationship. And we all know as, relationships develop, we can create connection, that initial connection online. But then there's other things that we can do along the way to open ourselves up and explain, communicate our leadership, communicate maybe our values will shine through during the writing, our brand. And as leaders, like you are influencing, every one of us are influencing someone online and in person. And so I know we're going to talk about authenticity later on, but both of those elements, online and in person, are so important to be a leader and building those relationships that will last.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing too with publicity, a lot of people see it as this intimidating thing that people who already have a giant network can only approach. And it can be really difficult and uncomfortable to try and start doing your own PR. And if you break that whole cloud of scariness down to the basics, it's knowing how to communicate verbally and knowing how to build relationships, basically. That's the two main things. And if you write stuff out, you can always get it edited by an awesome copy editor or whatever. And those emails and that kind of stuff can definitely, you can get support for that. But in terms of relationships, at one point you just have to ask yourself, like, what am I willing to do to make this happen? And what am I willing to do to build my business and serve the people that I know I need to serve? And that's my mission and that's my purpose. Mm-hmm. And publicity can do a lot of that for you, but it's really about building those relationships. I know we were talking earlier a little bit about how, there's different kinds of like uncomfortable scenarios when you're first building a relationship, whether it's, just meeting a stranger for the first time or, going on a first date or whatever. All those things can be uncomfortable, but if you actually just commit to it and say, you know what, I'm doing this for a reason, and it's not going to be this big scary thing, but I might feel a little bit uncomfortable. You get out there, you go on that first date, maybe you go on the second date, or you build a new friendship or a business connection and keep things moving.
Oh yeah. I mean, some of the greatest relationships that have been connected in my life. I mean, I'll even tell you a story about LinkedIn, building the relationships on LinkedIn that I had. And I started out from zero, just like everyone else, starts out. I mean, and I remember this one time I met this lady in person and she was like, oh my gosh, you're my LinkedIn friend. I see your posts. I see. And we, at that moment, it was light bulb of, we've been cultivating this relationship. And then we saw each other in person. She gave me this hug and, she's like, I feel like I know you. And it was like, okay, yeah, like this isn't as scary as it seems, and putting yourself out there and just going for it. I know we talked about that before, just going for it and not being afraid.
I think too, like in all my side jobs in my life, because I've gone through a bunch of them. I remember when I told you before, I used to sell popsicles when I first started doing publicity, and I looked at publicity as, hey, these are just the relationships I need to build, and these are the people I need to reach out. And it felt really scary and everything, but I was like, I'm just this lowly popsicle salesperson, but I can still send these emails and see what happens. Because a part of it is having that buffer of email or the screen where you're not necessarily going out there saying, hi, it's me, please listen to me, I'm worthy of being listened to. But on the other hand, I've met like a handful of celebrities in different like music festivals and stuff like that. And the weird thing that always strikes me is that these people are just as nervous and awkward and weird as everyone else.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And when it comes down to it, when you can see, people have these blown up personas online and these brands that have really cultivated a huge following, they can have this sense of intimidation because you're like, oh my God, here's this giant mountain standing before me. How am I ever going to get up there?
Yeah.
But when you actually just break things down and understand that, a brand might be doing really well and focusing a lot of its efforts on having that personality out there and being able to connect to people, then you really see it's all just a bunch of little pieces and everyone's kind of on the same level. Um, so I think that's awesome. And I think once you can just break all that down, that intimidation, if it doesn't go away completely, you can at least understand where it's coming from and you can tackle it a little bit better. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you kind of built up your LinkedIn following and maybe some of the things that have happened to you because of building relationships through LinkedIn.
I know we don't have all afternoon to talk about all the stories of relationship building, but and this is what I say whenever maybe you are just tackling your LinkedIn profile right now, of just start, like, even because whenever I started, it was the basics and it just built, and I say it's like a living and breathing document online that you just telling your story. It's just getting your story out there. You're bringing in your personal and your professional a little bit, like kind of not like your personal life. It's not like Facebook, but bringing in who you are. It's not just this is what I do. It's who are you? Who are you as a leader? Who are you? What are you doing out in the world to make a difference? Like, it just encapsulating all, like, the whole person, including like what you volunteer for and your passion and your mission. And I have had so many people, and vice versa, like I've either reached out to them, I'm like, wow, we have the same mission, or have the same values, or you're doing something really cool and I just want to know about it. And so I've had 15-minute conversations that just started with a connection on LinkedIn that turned into a business deal, that turned into a future opportunity. Some people that I connected with years ago, they're still there, and they're like, I keep up. They'll send me, messages every once in a while. I'm keeping up with your journey. I'm keeping up with your stuff. So you just never know. I know we talked about earlier, each connection point is an opportunity to just cultivate those relationships. And our world is so digital now, and that's a beauty of online, right? Because I have relationships all over the world. And even through my master's program, I have classmates that are online all over the world, and you just never know where those opportunities are going to come from. And that's not why you do it. You do it because I do it because I care about people, and I'm very curious, and I want to know, what other people are doing and how we can come together and make the world a better place. But it's so true. Like in just even utilizing LinkedIn, it's a simple little tool, but it can be so helpful whenever you're like, oh, I need to reach out to that person, or their birthday popped up. Hey, can I say happy birthday real quick? We were talking earlier, every single one of those little touch points matter in a relationship. And I've just seen it be so successful, and just a great tool for building relationships that last.
Yeah, and I think a really good point about having those touch points is that a brand is more than just the marketing materials that you push out there. It's more than just maybe the finalized product or service that you're putting out into the world. It's more than just the website that you had somebody like perfectly designed for you. And I think that actually opens up a lot of doors for people who might not have the budget for like the glitziest, web design or like the most amazing packaging or something like that. Because especially in publicity, the majority of the outreach work that I do is through email. And, back in the day, it was mailing physical envelopes to people with a bunch of printed out materials and like cassette tapes and stuff like that. And none of that is something that you have to do anymore. So automatically that takes down a whole financial barrier for so many people who could literally be getting publicity without any kind of budget, as long as you have like, an internet connection, which most of us do even on our phones these days. But everything from the way that you finish off an email to what you post on Twitter or LinkedIn or anything like that, all those different things are ways that people could bump into your brand and see what you're about. So whether it's your customer service or whether it's the way that you're even communicating with maybe an editor. I don't know if you heard that door. Hopefully this out. But whether, it's communicating with an editor who might be trying to learn more about your brand, and they see that you are a genuine, awesome person who's actually interested in what their magazine or what their blog is about. So much of that, in my personal experience, so much of doing publicity is just being able to communicate why your story would bring value to the readers of a publication. And sometimes people are like, oh, I just don't get it. These people are just saying no to me, but I'm so aligned with what they're doing. But it might mean that, they don't see that because you haven't connected with them on LinkedIn or through social media. One of the things that I recommend for people to do right off the bat is, if you see a publication, if you see a blog that you really want to be on, follow them on social, interact with them, leave comments on the articles that people are writing that are relevant to what you're doing, and not relevant to what you're doing. You could just love the whole publication, but so much of that is just actually being someone who's part of their audience so you can understand it and then connect to people that way.
Yes. I mean, because they're just people. Like, we're all people behind the brand. And I think that's where a lot of confusion comes with a brand, is that it's just a perfect segue into authenticity, that it is people, and people want to know who is behind the website, who is behind, like, are you staying connected? Are you responsive? Are you engaging? I think that's so important. And whenever you're talking about what value do you bring, we all bring a unique value to the world, a unique value and talents and gifts and voice. It's getting to the point, like, your voice matters. What you're doing matters. And there are people out there that want to know about it.
Exactly.
And it can change their life. It has the opportunity to do that, but we have to be, open and transparent sometimes, and just able to put ourselves out there. And I think that's a lot of the fear factor of just getting over that hump of, you know what, I have something to say, and what I'm doing is great. And I don't think you have to come from an arrogant standpoint or think you're being pretentious. I run into a lot of people that think that, and it's like, no, like, it's that confidence piece of that you are good enough. You're good enough, and what you're saying matters, and it needs to be out there.
Yeah, I think just to bounce off of that, the wonderful thing about publicity and the wonderful thing about being able to build relationships with people online is that it takes away the salesiness automatically. And I think when I finally realized that about publicity, like, dozens of walls of fear just fell down for me, because I finally understood that there are people who are literally out there looking for the solution that you already offer. And you are actually doing them a disservice if you do not go out there and show them easily how to get in touch with you. Whether it's something as, like, very clearly, like, charitable as, like, trying to provide solar power or water to people in third world countries, or if it's something as simple as, being a web designer and saying, you know what, there are people out there who need my help and who need my web design, and I know that I can be specifically, like, awesome for them. That's a service, and there's so much value in that. Or if it's something as simple as inspiring someone, and being able to provide that push that they need, whether it's motivation or whether it's helping them get out of a rut, whatever it is, because then those people, it's like this exponential growth effect. Those people can then go off and build their business. They can go off and serve other people. And it's because you take the time to understand that your story, your values, your ideas are valuable. And they're not only valuable for you because you decided that's what is important to you, but actually sharing them with other people has this amazing, like, networking and web effect that can absolutely change the world.
Yeah. And you're leading. You are leading online. You have no idea how those seeds of encouragement and motivation, even by being transparent about your journey, the ups, the downs, you will be rejected. That's a given. But it's okay, because that, the yes is going to come, and you can't say yes to anything ever, or everything anyways. We can't do it all, but you just got to keep going, and that builds the grit, that builds the determination. It invokes that passion, and you're right. Like, it takes the whole salesy side away of you're just providing a value and a solution to someone's problem.
Exactly. So on that note, I think it would be a great opportunity for us to kind of talk about guest posting and how that could be a really great, easy segue into getting into the whole publicity and self-promotion thing without being salesy or gross or anything like that.
No creepy, no creepy.
So do you want to talk a little bit about how you've been putting out articles on LinkedIn and what that's done for you?
Sure. Even so, like whenever I'm working with people or even myself, it was, okay, if I'm going to take this first step of just starting to write something, it was just blog posting on LinkedIn. And then now it's growing to, I've written some posts for my website. Yes, I could be better. And that's why I have the friendly publicist in my life to help with that. You know, I've taken the leap and been on some podcasts, but some of those podcasts came directly from what I was writing on LinkedIn, or they came across my profile. I'm like, yes, like we need to talk. And I said, yeah, it's just, we talked about that, just getting yourself out there, just starting. And I had to get over the hump of, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it out there. And it's just been a beautiful thing. It's all a journey. And you look back and you're like, oh, wow, that was a little rough starting out, you know. However, you're growing, because if you're not doing it, if you're not practicing, if you're not writing, and if you're not getting it out there, then you're not growing and you're not going anywhere.
Yep. I think one of the biggest things for me, and I see this with a lot of my clients too, is that unless you put something down on the foundation, it doesn't matter what it is, you're not going to have anything to work off of. So whether every single day you write a paragraph and you think it's the worst like brain vomit you've ever made, but at least you have something to edit or something to build off of so you can have a little bit of perspective, you're just never going to get started. And I think in terms of guest posting, I think sometimes people don't realize the amount of opportunities that are out there, because there are so many publications. You know, content is the ruler of all things on the internet. So there are so many different publications out there that are specifically looking for contributors on a regular basis. And a lot of them are going to be unpaid when you first start off and you don't really have a portfolio. And, you know, it doesn't mean that you have to be guest posting like as a full-time job on top of running a business, but it might be something that will, you know, that will be that thing that you can build off of. So for me personally, I was writing blog posts here and there for myself, and I was like, okay, I guess here's a topic someone might be interested in. Here's a topic. And then when I finally actually started guest posting and I went to different publications, and then I had editors coming back to me saying, well, this is a question that we have no idea how you would answer. Everything started clicking into place. And so many different ideas started showing up for me because I got that feedback. I specifically went to publications that I knew that I already loved and I had been following for a while. So when I pitched them and I said, hey, I'd love to write a guest post for you, they got back to me almost immediately, because they said, you know our audience. Clearly you've shown your presence in the past. You've got a couple little blog posts you've showed us, but like, let's see what you can really do. And through that, you know, I'm already seeing myself growing so much. And it wasn't something where I was saying, hey, someone please write a story about how great I am and all the great things I'm doing. It was me just going out there and thinking, how can I really reach the audience that is looking for me, the people that I can already help, and how can I find a built-in audience to do that? And that's exactly what publicity is, just finding those built-in audiences and plugging into those channels and being able to spread your reach that way.
Yeah. And I mean, even to bring in leadership within all of that, that's the thing. Like you get it out there, or even, you know, being an entrepreneur, if you're a small business, you know, you have to just get it out there, that minimal viable product. But as a leader, like you've got to be able to take that feedback. And in that case, like I remember I was talking with a gentleman not too long ago, and he was talking to me about some of the writing and some of the things, and it was great. Like it was candid, it was straightforward. It was like, this is what you've got to do. And it was okay, you know what? I can get better. It's a pattern, just like anything else. And I love your story because you did the work that it takes. And that's what a lot of people just need to know. It takes hard work. It takes hard work, and it takes getting up and trying again, not seeing failures as the end all be all, just an opportunity to learn along the journey. and you're going to look back, because we don't learn looking forward. We always learn looking backwards. And you even just seeing where you started and where you are now, and it's like, you know what? Yeah, I can do this. And then you get into this rhythm of wanting the feedback, like, as leaders, to grow, because you're influencing others. So the healthier that we become, it's that you're allowing that freedom and the health to just transcend to your readers. I mean, because they can read through all of that. So you're influencing them. You're influencing all the people around you. I mean, because this is what the collective is also all about, right? Because this collaboration, and that's the best part of all. Once you start putting yourself out there, it's like these divine connections will just start happening, and amazing people will come into your life, and you're like, I don't have that strength, but they do, and they're gonna be my best friend forever. You know?
Yeah, and I'm so happy you pulled the collective into all this, because I think so much of the motivation that I've gotten, especially in the last couple months that all of us have been working together, has just been, you know, all of us being super honest and candid about, you know, what's going really well. Woohoo! We have like our win channel on Slack. And then everybody's like, oh, I have this tech problem. And Tara's like, I got you.
Right.
And we have all these different questions. And I know I've been sharing like different publicity tips with you guys, and everybody's just building off of each other. And I think it's been so valuable to understand that you have a group of people who will get what you're doing with business, because let's be completely honest, there are so many people you can't talk candidly about business with. My fiance, I can't really talk to him about my business. He knows like the general structure of it, but if I'm like, hey babe, so here's what I'm working on, he's like, I have no idea what you're doing. So it's so nice to just be able to be vulnerable and comfortable and say, you know what, I'm not sure how this works, and I'm not going to pretend like I know what is happening, because I've got people who are depending on me, and I need to depend on someone else too.
Yeah.
It's such a nice relationship.
Yep. We need one another. And even in that case, it's like, I know someone. If I don't know it, I know someone who does. And that's the beauty of relationships. I mean, the most successful CEOs, you know, they spend most of their time doing favors for one another and for people. And that's what it's all about. It's just about relationships. Yeah. Learning from one another.
Oh my God. Yes, exactly. That's it. So yeah, I think we covered everything we wanted to talk about. Really, the gist of it is, if you want to put your brand out there authentically and really be a genuine person and make those relationships happen, go out there, do the work, and, you know, and be open to feedback, and be open to all the insanely amazing opportunities that are going to come your way.
Yeah.